This week, we're exploring the city of Northampton. Located on the western half of Hampshire County, it is the second largest city in the county as well as the county seat with a population of 29,571 people. What made Northampton into this big urban core? Is it worth the visit or just a drive-by? I'm Gus, and let's see what's along the way. The area we call Northampton today was first settled around the spring of 1654 by settlers from Hartford. The area was first sighted by Europeans around 1638 as Captain John Marston sought for a corn supply from the natives. His return brought back rumors of a vast fertile land, and as these rumors grew, so did the petitions for settlement to the General Court. One of these was granted on May 18th of 1653, which represented a population from both Hartford and Springfield, led by John Pynchon, securing the land purchase for which Northampton now lays, as it was formerly owned and used by Nonotuck members. Settlers with charter in hand were quick to arrive, distributing lots and laying out streets, and by 1662 it was added to the newly formed Hampshire County, sharing the status of shire town with Springfield. In the beginning, it seems that the early settlers of Northampton were somewhat welcoming to their host, allowing the Nonotucks to reside and use the lands to a certain extent. These pleasantries even extended to allowing them to build and maintain their own fort. But this quickly changed as King Philip's War loomed. During the war, Northampton's residents quickly felt distrustful of their neighbors, enacting restrictions and disallowing the usage of the fort the Nonotucks had requested. The events of the Bloody Brook Massacre in Deerfield quickly brought change to Northampton, with troops patrolling the area and the construction of fortifications and palisades that surrounded a good portion of the settlement. Despite these events, Northampton was able to continue its development. Initially starting as an agrarian community, Northampton was quickly diversifying. As before the war, Northampton's industries was limited to a grist and sawmill. Once the war ended, Northampton rapidly resumed its industrial development, granting rights to construct a lead mine and even diverting the Mill River in 1710 to allow for more development. Northampton was showing signs of a developing economy, in part thanks to its early trade routes into Boston and Springfield, though it was still mostly reliant on a barter trade system. This system was mostly preferred by the area settlers, as it was often difficult to acquire and maintain hard currency. This made most settlers poor, dependent only by their agricultural output and stock, while those with a more diverse portfolio were able to maintain a more comfortable lifestyle. These conditions were exacerbated right after the Revolution. As the colony currency depreciated more and more, the residents relied on trade, but the courts and collectors only accepted hard currency, and this partially sowed the seeds that quickly led to the Chase Rebellion in 1787. Northampton contains two prominent rivers, the Connecticut River and the Mill River, both draining southwardly, though the Mill River drains into the Connecticut River through the Oxbow. The Connecticut River, though mostly unnavigable past Hartford, was able to provide many benefits to Northampton settlers. The river linked Northampton to trade routes from Springfield to Boston and to industrial settlements in the north. The Oxbow itself formed relatively not so long ago. In 1830, floodwaters rushed into the ever-shrinking meander, overtaking it and cutting its former self, forming the Oxbow. Northampton is crossed by 5 major routes: Massachusetts Route 9, 10, 66, US Route 5, and Interstate 91. Other than Interstate 91, most of these routes are based on old trade routes. Northampton receives freight rail traffic from the Connecticut River Line, from north to south, currently served by CXX, while also receiving passenger rail traffic from Amtrak's Valley Flyer, Vermonter, and Hartford lines. Northampton formerly had two railroads, the Central Massachusetts Railroad and the New Haven and Northampton Railroad, which after their abandonment were transformed into rail trails. The 1800s marked an era of change for Northampton. Though still agrarian, the seeds for a prosperous economy were just emerging. By this time, Northampton's industries were at their infancy, mostly creating products such as paper, cutlery, rope, and wool. These industries, birthed by the Mill River, were the foundations of the communities of Leeds and Florence. In 1823, the Northampton and New Haven Canal was chartered, creating a new water route from Northampton to New Haven in the hopes of transporting cargo more easily. Unfortunately, the business wasn't profitable, as the new technology rolled into the valley, and they quickly changed course towards rail. By 1845, the Northampton and Springfield Railroad was established, soon connecting to Greenfield, forming the Connecticut River Railroad by 1847, while the Northampton and New Haven Railroad arrived to Northampton around 1848. By this time, Northampton was becoming an industrial powerhouse, with a diverse output of silk, buttons, sewing machines, metals, tools, and more, as many industries started to supplement the Mill River's output with steam. These industries provided the jobs and products that fuel a merchant and cultural center in downtown Northampton, which in turn created a fertile environment for political discourse, with prominent abolitionist voices emerging in Northampton and Florence. By 1860, Northampton had a population of around 6,788 people, establishing services and institutions such as the State Hospital in 1858, the Northampton Street Railway in 1873, the Cooley-Dickinson Hospital by 1887, and a unique town hall with a castle-like appearance, a mix of Gothic and Tudor architecture, which still stands here today. In 1874, the area around the Mill River suffered a catastrophic flood, after a poorly constructed dam built 9 years earlier suddenly failed, quickly flooding the area of Haydenville and Leeds as it drained towards the Oxbow, affecting Florence and downtown Northampton. The devastation didn't slow Northampton down though, as by 1883, Northampton was re-established as a city, with new icons such as Smith College and the Academy of Music just opening, the consolidation of 3 separate railroad stations into the Union Station, and a telephone company. Northampton was more than prepared to cross into the 20th century. By the early 1900s, Northampton's population kept increasing, reaching a population of 18,643 people in the 1900 census, an increase of 3,653 people in just 10 years. As World War I commenced, the need of materials for the war effort such as silk powder bags was quickly felt, allowing mills such as the Nonotuck Silk Company to quickly expand, employing a large amount of the population. After the war, these fortunes slowly diminished, but other industries flourished. One such business, the Florence Manufacturing Company, was experiencing prosperity with the first successful commercially available toothbrush, the prophylactic brush, in the 1920s. Meanwhile, the Nonotuck Silk Company quickly diminished after the war, as the heavy need for its products created many competitors and alternatives, bringing its demise around 1932. But these closures did not mean the end for industry in Northampton, as other sectors such as the cutlery industry was able to expand and supplement the loss felt in other sectors. As the Great Depression brought many pains throughout the valley, Northampton was able to sustain thanks to its mixed economy of industry, retail, and education. Besides other surviving or new industries, institutions such as Smith College, a women's college founded in 1871 at the bequest from Sophia Smith, was able to expand in both land and employment. The winter of 1935-36 brought a heavy amount of snow to the northeast region, and as spring arrived, this turned into torrential rain. These conditions caused large amounts of water and ice to quickly accumulate, and by March of 1936, the trend culminated with multiple floods, affecting areas from Maine to Pennsylvania. In Massachusetts, the Connecticut River rushed through the valley, as it overflowed a dam in Vermont, prompting evacuation alerts as the waters arrived to Montague, where it rushed over the dam again with a tremendous force, enough to uproot houses and bridges, which then flowed downstream, causing more destruction. While in Northampton, the waters were high enough to flood the railroad bridge, while the other bridge was lost due to the rushing waters. And coupled with the Mill River, a river already prone to flooding, made the perfect conditions to submerge Northampton with numerous roads and buildings underwater. This destruction continued downstream, flooding many settlements in its wake, with a monetary cost of $100 million in 1936 and an estimated human cost of 200 lives. Recovery efforts were swift, with some even tacked on and expedited into the New Deal public works, giving us infrastructure such as the Calvin-Coolidge Bridge that still stands here to this day. The 1950s marked an era of change for Northampton. As industries left, either due to competition or consolidation, Northampton was still able to sustain due to its mixed economy, slowly transitioning into service, retail, and education, while also increasing its infrastructure with the construction of I-91. In the 1960 census, Northampton's population was 30,058 people, a peak in population because as the century progressed, Northampton's population slowly decreased. In 1966, long-distance passenger rail service ended, with local traffic ending not long after. During Amtrak's formation and takeover, it ran a line stopping at Northampton, but service ended 15 years later due to poor rail conditions, later changing its route, stopping in Amherst instead. Since 1858, Northampton had a state hospital, formerly called the Northampton Lunatic Asylum. The hospital began with the purpose of treating and protecting the mentally unwell through the usage of work therapy and methods of the era. Unfortunately, as good as the hospital's initial intentions might have been for its time, the hospital quickly became a human warehouse, with appalling conditions and treatment. Thankfully, due to scientific developments since the 1950s on the treatment of mental health and a slowly changing public opinion, this hospital's operations soon became questionable, if not outright morally objectionable. Federal and state funding slowed and depleted by the late 80s, prompting many of them to slowly close their doors. This released many patients into homelessness, as there were not many safety nets. Others attempted to transform the former hospital to proper housing, but ultimately these efforts were just a dead end, leaving many of them to seek shelter and stability in other regions. In the year 2000, Northampton population was 28,978 people, a continuation of the population decline from the 1960s. During this time, major rail lines were falling into disuse, if not flat-out abandonment. This wasn't for long though, as they were quickly transforming to rail trails, while the Union Station started to receive passengers from Amtrak in 2014, after moving the station from Amherst. In 2020, Northampton was able to break its 60-year slump, reaching a population of 29,571 people. Though still not the biggest city in the county, Northampton appears and acts as a big city, with a dense urban core containing multiple parks, services, and businesses. And things might change in the future with the Main Street redesign, a project that will reshape downtown Northampton into a more walkable and bike-friendly layout, with the hopes of increasing the safety for all. This project is still at its infancy and shouldn't be finished until around 2026. Today, Northampton has become a cultural center, hosting many community events from festivals, parades, and fairs that make Northampton an iconic place to live and experience, with many individuals from artists, writers, and even US presidents have resided in Northampton. It is no wonder why so many people have called Northampton home for over the last 370 years. So what do you guys think? Do you live in Northampton or have you ever visited? I was amazed at how much history and culture there is in Northampton. From abolition, toothbrushes, and even Ninja Turtles, Northampton has become the cultural center of the county, hosting multiple events and concerts throughout the year. Well, that's all I got for you today. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time.